Rutvik, pleasure to meet you again. Super excited and looking forward to chatting with you, kind of hearing more about your backstory and even more about Go Ventures and everything you're doing over there, and maybe even some hot takes about what you're bullish on in Africa. But we'll get to that later. If you wouldn't mind giving a quick intro to everybody who hasn't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, just kind of everything leading up to where you're at now.
Thanks, Grant. Really appreciate it. More than happy to give an intro. Really appreciate you bringing me on today and look forward to our chat because I know our previous ones have been quite fun too. Quick intro. My name is Rutvik. I'm currently based here in Toronto, but originally I was born and brought up in Dubai, being from of Indian origin as well. In between here and there, through my career and my life, I've been fortunate to live in two different parts of the world, making it a little bit relevant to our conversation, which is about startup different ecosystems in different parts of the globe. So today I co-run a corporate venture capital fund called Go Ventures, which is from a telecoms group in the Mediterranean. The fund is called Go Ventures and the group is called Go. We are about a 300 million euro market cap group, and we have a series of tech infrastructure-oriented business across the Mediterranean, largely in the telecoms, data center, cloud, cybersecurity sort of spaces, managed IT services largely. So based off of that, in about 2018, what we said is that, hey, we've been growing this group through M&A investment anyways, but let's start to look at some wider innovation. So we targeted startups as a way to capture innovation by our investment in them. And the thesis of our fund is basically that if we find companies that we can either use internally to improve operational efficiencies, or that we can actually pass on and sell to our customers and give them benefits too. So Go Ventures have been doing pretty well over the past 7 years of operation. We managed to make one unicorn in this time, one soonicorn as well. Some of your audience may even recognize some of these companies. One is called Airalo, the other is called Certify. And these are really great examples of how we select companies that synergize with our portfolio. If you take Airalo, it's an eSIM marketplace, so that allows us to publish our eSIMs on, and that is a value add to our customers who can purchase on a global marketplace. Outside of Go Ventures, I'm also helping out with a number of other organizations in Europe as well as in the Middle East and North Africa, from startup accelerators, angel syndicates, as well as other corporates, and helping them run their investment programs. Back to you, Grant.
Absolutely. Just as a disclaimer, this episode is not sponsored by Airalo. However, I have personally used Airalo in the past, and it is a great eSIM for when I've traveled to Mexico City as well as in Japan. So highly recommend if you're looking for a eSIM, but we are not sponsored by them. Maybe one day, but for now, great start. You mentioned one thing, that you're a corporate venture capital fund. For those who might not understand the difference between a CVC fund and just a regular VC fund that might raise from more institutions or just wealthy individuals, what would you say are the differences?
So corporate venture capital fund generally has a couple of differences. One is definitely, as you mentioned, in the LP structure, right? So it's where you get the money from. It's very important when you're investing cash. Where do you get it from? So in a corporate context, generally it comes from the company itself. They write it off the balance sheet, or they reserve a certain capital allocation so that you can invest in startups. Just like how you might have a capital allocation for M&A investments or for new equipment like that, you'll have a special bucket for investing in startups. But the other is the strategic angle, right? Because if you're a corporate, you clearly will have some KPIs or strategy for your parent business, and hopefully you can find these startups that can help you move towards that. For example, let's say a strategic initiative is, improve improve call center satisfaction rate, right? You can find software that has AI, that has automation, that can help your agents go through cases faster, can give your agents insight into how happy your customers are in any language that they call in, for example. Because you have these tools that use NLP today to kind of predict, is your customer happy based on what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Funnily enough, this is actually a use case that we've invested in a company called Coom AI, which allows us to do language processing in the Maltese language, which is actually a very niche language, right? So this is why we actually invested in this company. So a prime example of investing to help some strategic initiatives, right?
That makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. Kind of on that same thread, Europe is a very wide place. The Mediterranean's a pretty big place. Why choose, the Maltese to place your fund in?
So the Maltese Islands are, it's more than why did we choose to base it there? It's because the telecoms group is from there, right? Mm-hmm. So we have a telco very much like an AT&T, but based in that region. And in fact, we own telecom assets in Cyprus and are affiliated with ones in Tunisia as well. So across that region, we do have a footprint. So that's actually why. A lot of people think it's for tax reasons. That's why it's a question I get all the time. But while there are ways to benefit from tax in different jurisdictions such as Malta, I won't go into it, but that's not the reason in this case.
It is definitely always a question. We talked to somebody from Puerto Rico last year who was saying, one of the benefits of putting your startup in Puerto Rico is when you exit, you don't have to pay, or it's like significantly diminished taxes on the exit for your startup. So just very interesting to hear, different reasons why different areas might be better fit for certain funds or certain startups. But good to know. I'll have to come visit there one day, even though I'll have to visit Toronto as well. Probably in the summer when it's warmer, and I can wear less layers. I've been really looking forward to asking you more on the Africa side. Since we talked last time, you mentioned it, and I've held off doing my own research because I want to hear your takes first on why are you so bullish on Africa, and Africa's a big place. What specific countries within Africa?
So, my exposure to Africa is one due to the fact that, I did an MBA program that kind of took me there. So I developed some contacts and started to get exposed. But then also because of, Open Startup, which is a nonprofit accelerator, which is headquartered in Tunisia, but serves the entire African continent. They've done so for about 10 years. Accelerated over 500 companies in those 10 years. And they do this through about 6 different programs, from idea stage all the way to investment readiness, which is like seed plus. And these programs offer educational support, curriculum, experts come in and teach on specific things that an entrepreneur should know. We give them access to investors, we take them to events, various forms of coaching from, world-renowned business leaders, and try to get them to grow. And we do this all currently for no equity or no cash. But now we're starting to move the model towards taking a little bit of equity to see if there's a self-sustainability involved. So why does it interest me is, number one, because we see a lot of opportunity in the US and in North America. Like more than half of all VC funding happens in the US. And that's true that we get a lot of action there. But, just as we mentioned about, some of the companies in our portfolio that we've invested in, they aren't coming from the US. And in fact, the best performers in our portfolio have originated from Singapore, which is Airalo, or India, which is Certify. And that they're respectively at a $1 billion and $850 million valuation. So this makes you question, hey, why is everybody just focusing on the US? And okay, it might be easier. You might get more hits over there. But that doesn't mean that you won't find talented entrepreneurs, good ideas, good appetite in the market in other places. But generally LPs also can be risk averse. So even when you're raising a fund, focusing on the US might be a little bit more of a better target, since you'll find funders who are interested in funding in that market too. But in terms of opportunity, I've really started to believe and see. I think it's about my interaction with these markets. That's why I'm fortunate that I got exposed to these different places, and I speak to entrepreneurs every day from these places. That I started to see that, hey, you can build a lot of things, and you can see a lot of success stories, right?
Let me pause you right there. I want to hit on that note that you just said. When you're talking to these LPs about a fund specifically for these places outside of America, what do you think is that trigger? That kind of seeing the numbers is one thing, believing that the community can continue to build is a whole different thing, and be able to invest in it when most of these funds are somewhere between 7 to 15 year life cycles. What do you think is that thing that pushes the LPs over to say, you know what, let's take that risk on Africa and these African startups. Let's see what we can do instead of investing in other funds that invest in America?
I think the simplest way to answer that question is to say, look at African LPs, for example, or if you're going for the Middle East, look for Middle Eastern LPs, right? Because there you'll find, and we're saying it very generally, right? Because if you go to a specific country and try to find an LP, they'll want you to invest in that country, probably, right? Especially if you're going to a governmental agency. So there are a lot of governments that will say, okay, we'll become an LP in your fund. We hope you'll make some investments in our country, of course, right? Make at least 3 in our country, just to that extent. Or the money that we're giving you, we want to see local economic development from that, because that's the angle for more governmental LPs, right? And then if you find the individuals or corporates or other local LPs, they have an interest in driving locally. It might be from having an established entity there that they want to see grow. So let's say that you want to launch a VC fund that's focused on energy or climate change or something like that, and you find a corporate that produces solar panels, and they want to become your LP. They might be producing solar panels in Kenya, for example. They might say, okay, we'll give you some money, but we want to see some money happening, some investments happening in Kenya, number one. And in maybe that might be for financial or tax reasons. If you put the money in Kenya, it's beneficial to them. And then they might say that, hey, they want it to be in specifically PV cell related startups as well. So each investor will have their own mandate and the reason why they want to kind of go for a certain area. And it might be because of their own restrictions that they have to kind of follow, or it might be because of their personal interests or where they've seen success, or where they believe in.
Interesting. Nice. Tell me about some of the successes you've seen coming out of Africa so far.
Yeah, I think there have been quite a few where you see the most interesting ones are in fintech, mobility, and in HR tech. Those are the 3 areas. So there's Wave, there's Move, which was acquired by Uber. There's I believe it's called Andela, if I'm not wrong. It's an HR tech company. So quite a few in that space. Now, I think that where you see success in terms of companies that exited, there's a lot of macroeconomic wins in other countries and other areas happening too, right? So because Uber became big and they decided that they wanted to go for, an African territory, they found this company and they went for it. So similarly, I think in different regions, like the entrepreneurs solve problems that are local to those regions. So in for example, you see a lot of mobility companies coming from Nigeria as well. I think you see a lot of fintech companies as well. So those are the main areas in which I see exits. But now with with an AI wave, all of this also changes.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. This is kind of a two-parter of, you're in Toronto, but you're investing in, Africa as well. How are you seeing these startup ecosystems change? Are you seeing more, and obviously, like you just mentioned, there's the AI wave. Are you seeing a lot of AI investment in Africa, in Toronto, or where do you see things changing in the next kind of year or so? I don't expect you to be Nostradamus, and like predict the future, but I do think we're in a very interesting time right now where the key term that I keep hearing around is dry powder. A lot of investors, everybody was investing in AI for the last 2-3 years, but now we're seeing those valuations blow up to, is it possible to get a return by continuing to invest, huge sums in these? Or should we invest in other things to diversify our portfolios? I'd just be very interested to hear your takes on, the Toronto ecosystem and then where you see things going in Africa.
Yeah, so Toronto has a pretty lively ecosystem when it's not snowing when there's not 30 centimeters of snow. But basically,
so 6 months out of the year, it's really active.
And there's actually the summer brings out a lot. There's a lot of local events.
Mm-hmm.
We have a Toronto Tech Week. There used to be a big one from Web Summit over here, but they moved it to Vancouver actually. But in its place, there have been things coming up. I find that you get a lot of AI talent also coming from the Waterloo-Hamilton region, because at Waterloo there's a University of Waterloo, which means a lot of AI researchers. And you start to see some good companies coming out of here as well. But what happens is most of the companies that start here, they tend to focus all their energy outside, right? Because they're thinking about, hey, how can I get American customers and American funding? And that starts to be a problem, because then you're building over here and then you eventually just migrate to the US because it's easier for you to do your things. So maybe there can be more protections to keep entrepreneurs excited about being here. But I think every company nowadays, at least in the tech scene, is going to have a flavor of AI to it. What's really going to stand out in the next couple of years is people are going to want to wonder, okay, are we going to make money off these companies? Yeah. Right now, people are ready to invest for the future, right? Hoping that things will grow. Company finds a wedge and gains a valuation later. But very soon we'll start to talk more and more about unit economics when the hype dies down a little bit. You'll start to think about, okay, how much am I really spending on compute power per call that I have to make to the API? Mm-hmm. So does my subscription actually cover that? On average, a user makes 500 API calls to OpenAI in a month. Is his subscription actually covering that? Assuming that, is he on average parsing, a full presentation and doing in-depth research? Or is it just, writing a small amount of text using generative AI for something very simple, mm-hmm. right? So calculating, the unit economics per user in terms of how much compute power they're using will become essential very soon, I think, as we get more restrictive on it. Right now, there's a lot of, it still feels experimental, right? It mm-hmm. still feels that, hey, let's continue to do R&D, right? So, that's one part about it. And then the second part, I think, is about, hey, how do you integrate workflows and AI, right? Because I think what happened first was, SaaS companies became kind of big. They built their wedge. They became standard as workflows across most businesses. Even a restaurant you go to down the street has a SaaS product for their billing, right? So it's become very standard. Then you get an AI and you're figuring out, hey, where can I use AI in this workflow? And you kind of wedge it in somewhere, like using ChatGPT at one point during your post writing or editing process, let's say. for this video, right? But what I think is important is that that the workflow is inbuilt with AI. So soon you'll start to see companies that deliver your full solution, right? Not only is it using AI to do a certain component, it's mixing it with a SaaS workflow that builds your process out for easy use. I think that's the change we're going to see as well. And you were talking about, hey, where do you find opportunity in Africa, right? And I think you see a lot of AI talent coming from there, right? In general, whenever people are trying to recruit development talent internationally, they can look at India, they can look at Southeast Asia, they can look at Latin America or Africa, and you get very good skilled engineers for a lot cheaper per hour cost. So if that tells us anything, that should hope that that for a lower price point, these other nations can build competitive AI products, right? These other emerging markets, for example.
Yeah.
And yeah, it will take some time before the perception of risk kind of lowers.
Yeah.
I think we'll continue to see some pretty interesting products coming out from all over the world. I don't think it's the kind of story that we have now, that everything comes out of the most developed nations. And I think we're going to continue to see a lot of shift there.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast this morning with Jensen Huang on it, talking about NVIDIA and there's these two college students somewhere in New England, at Harvard actually, and they had this breakthrough on computer vision. So they just took the technology that we had and they just figured a better way to use it than we had, and out of their dorm room, and they were able to create much better computer vision. That was the breakthrough where now Google, Gemini, and everything can see your pictures better and better analyze it. He goes, the coolest thing is we've got all these billions of dollars behind it and researching, and we made the chips and we couldn't figure it out. It just took the right person to, figure the thing out the right way to, really optimize it. So I think that, and then hearing what you just said, is really all right, I'm excited to see, what sort of underdogs come out of all over the world, and really, shake things up in the next 10, 15 years. So excited to see that. Last real question I wanted to ask, next week is the kickoff of our CS program. I'm expecting at least 200 students here at UW-Madison for the next cohort of our Accelerator program. Already this week, after this, I got a coffee meeting with one of them. So I am more than caffeinated this week meeting all of them, but super excited to get this kicked off. Any general advice, if you could, give one piece of advice to all the students who are about to start on their first ever entrepreneurial experience, their first startup, what's that one thing you would give them all?
I think the tools that we have today to build out things are much more sophisticated than even just 5 years ago, right? So right now, even without a technical person, you can build out your workflows in a software, and you can automate things, right? You can automate things for businesses. So if you're trying to, build something, it's very easy to get a prototype into the hands of a customer. So I would suggest getting your hands dirty with customers very early on, right? And building something that they can use, whether they can even use it for free first, and then eventually when they start to make some savings from it or get some benefits from it, they can start to pay you. And that really gets you to a point where you've got a business idea that's working in the market faster than sitting down, writing just a pitch deck, figuring out, hey, how am I going to raise money on a pre-seed idea? I think that the rules of that game have changed a little, right? And even on the investor side, people are looking for more sophisticated pre-seed products. That's I think the key takeaway in today's market that I would give.
Perfect. I'm pretty sure every semester they get tired of me repeating the line, go talk to your customers. So I am 100% going to clip that and just play it on repeat if any of them want to back talk. So thank you for that. Well, perfect, man. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else you wanted to discuss today or any other topics?
No, I think we covered quite a bit. Thanks for taking the time to have this session. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for making the time. I really appreciate it. Well, perfect.